Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Just Two Brothers podcast, where we will be sharing our journey so far and some of the simple tactics we've learned that have helped us become great leaders.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Just Two Brothers podcast. I sounded weird with hello, but
What's going on, everybody? We gotta sound weird every once in a while.
goddamn.
We're back north.
Back in the hunting cabin, doing some more recording.
Last little bit of chores before season starts. We had cameras to move and some more seed to put down.
Tree stand is set.
Yeah, we should be set now. Opening days in 2 weeks here in Michigan, so yeah.
Looking forward to it. We'll be doing some more recording in our cabin over the next few months with hunting season, but today we're going to talk about ownership and accountability. Taking ownership and holding yourself and others accountable for their actions.
Okay. You threw me off with the taking ownership.
How'd I throw you off?
Taking ownership, because we've kind of discussed this. I brought up owning your mistakes because that was mentioned between us as well.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I think that's a different topic, so we can have a discussion here. And then you just threw out taking ownership, which I, again, think is another different topic. So that one kind of caught me off guard because I think that could be separate from the other two.
And we're going to kind of break that down and find out what the difference is between them and purposes and benefits and reasons for it.
Yeah. This should be an interesting
That's the purpose of today's episode. So I'm going to start off. I have the definition of accountable written down. It is required or expected to justify actions or decisions. Responsible. So responsibility and accountability are similar.
Yes.
Required or expected to justify actions or decisions. So by that definition, accountability is what you hold others to.
Yes.
Correct?
A standard.
Yes.
Of sorts.
And ownership is obviously you're owning the actions. You're owning your actions or decisions.
Yes, or the results of those decisions, good or bad. And then owning your mistakes is owning up when you screw up.
Which is, I still think, the same thing as that's ownership and
yes,
just in a nutshell.
Taking ownership can also be something outside of your comfort zone too. It can be taking on a project or asking to spearhead something or asking to have more responsibility. That can be taking ownership. But that's different from owning your mistakes.
I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
Okay.
Is that taking ownership or taking initiative?
Both. I think that's one and the same there.
We're going to ask old trusty Google here.
Yeah, I guess, lump ownership and initiative together. But I
taking ownership is about taking initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, taking ownership is about taking initiative.
Okay.
So that, taking ownership of your work, taking initiative, I feel is different than taking accountability or
Yes.
having accountability.
Yes. It's holding yourself or others to a certain standard and saying we're going to get this done, and or saying setting a deadline for yourself or others and saying this needs to happen by this date and making sure it happens, following through on it. Take Holding yourself accountable is following through.
I have accountability is not a feeling like ownership or responsibility. Rather, accountability is a process that is usually external. Someone holds you accountable, although a sense of ownership means that you will hold yourself accountable as well. In between ownership and accountability is responsibility.
Yes.
So you have to take ownership of your actions, and other people will hold you accountable.
You can hold
In
yourself accountable as well.
Right. Well, you need to hold yourself accountable, but you're holding yourself accountable on what you took ownership of.
Yes. And then if you buck up, you can own that mistake.
Exactly. And that's where I was going with this whole idea for today's discussion,
Okay.
was owning your mistakes when you fuck up.
Okay. And yes, I group that separately from holding yourself accountable or holding others accountable. You can hold them accountable for their mistakes, but you can also hold them accountable to deadlines that have been set, or if they tell you they're going to get something done and they don't, you can hold them accountable. Hey, you said you were going to get this done. I need this to get my project done.
Absolutely.
If you need more time or whatever, like let me know how, whatever.
Which required or expected to justify actions or decisions. So you are asking them
Right.
by asking them, why is this not done? You are holding them accountable
Right.
to own
Their mistake.
their. So by holding someone accountable, you are requiring them to take ownership of whatever happened.
Yeah.
So they go hand in hand, but ownership
And that
seems
ownership
more
is
of a.
different from the ownership we were mentioning previously, because that ownership is taking the initiative. This ownership is possessive,
Mm-hmm.
accepting responsibility for your inaction in this case.
Yes.
That's why this is going to be an interesting
It's going to be a
conversation,
discussion,
because I think we have three separate topics here.
and that's kind of what I'm seeing, but I think accountability and ownership of actions they go hand in hand, obviously,
Yes.
but it's just two sides of the same coin, if I'm using that phrase right. One person can hold somebody accountable while the other one has to take ownership for that accountability.
Yes. And that
They
taking
both work
ownership again
together.
is different from the taking
Right.
ownership we mentioned earlier.
We'll call that taking initiative
Yes, okay.
instead of taking ownership.
Okay.
So
So you want to
I
talk
guess
owning your mistakes.
that's where my thought process is. So
Okay.
let's start there.
There goes all the notes I had ready.
So I'm going to start off with
Owning your mistakes, so I like this one.
I can start off with either an example of something that just happened this week that sparked this topic, or I guess maybe I might have talked about the other story where I blew up on a coworker. Did we talk about that in one of the
We've
episodes?
talked about, I think during our anger management one, we talked about you blowing up on people.
So we'll start there.
I'd say start with the one that happened this week, because I've got one that happened this week too.
Okay. So a week ago, just over a week ago. It was Friday night. I received a text of a picture of something that got screwed up at one of our customers' facilities. Cable got drilled into, caused some issues. Thought it was one of the guys on my team. My manager and I discussed it over the phone, figured out who we thought it was, and we moved on with the weekend, addressed it on Monday. Turns out it was nobody in my team. It was somebody else in our company who was trying to help somebody in our team just drill some holes for wiring. He knew exactly what had happened, and he didn't know right at the moment, but he knew he got the exact same picture Friday night that everybody else did. He told our customer that he did it, but didn't tell anybody else. So it came down to Monday, we found out by asking our guy if he did it, and he said, oh no, so-and-so helped me. Well, then we have to go to the other person and say, hey, what the hell happened? Well, he was waiting for, turns out, after talking to him, he had been waiting for somebody to ask him about what happened, and he thought it wasn't a big deal because there was a backup plan, there was another cable, they were able to get everything back up and running. So he kind of just let it go to see how things played out, and it didn't work out very well. So him and I talked, and I was telling you this on the drive up here. Him and I had a conversation about all this, and I told him, I said, what should you have done? Said, I don't know. I thought I did what I should. I mean, I thought it was going to work out. They had another cable. I didn't think much of it. I said, the first thing you should have done, if you knew it was your mistake, you knew it happened, make a phone call to your manager or whoever you're talking to about this job. Make a phone call and say, hey, that cable, I did that. That's my mistake. So you know what would have happened if you did that? So what? I said, probably nothing. It probably would have been let go. Nobody would have cared. I mean, yeah, you might have gotten talked to, like, hey, you got to be more careful, but you would have just owned it and walked away from the entire situation. Now it's caused a big fuss at the shop.
Right.
You got talked to several times. Now you're kind of on thin ice for a little bit. You just got to be careful. But all you have to do is just own it. If you know that you did something wrong, or you know, even if you don't know, but you find out before other people find out down the line, take it immediately.
Right.
Don't hide that shit.
Right.
It's going to come back and bite you.
That action alone catches people off guard and they don't know how to respond. I've noticed
It
that
disarms.
because
It disarms them.
I make sure I do this all the time. If I screw up, I'm the first one to say it because what's the point in trying to hide it?
So,
and that instantly, like you said, defenses are gone.
Because there's nothing.
What are they going to say to you?
It completely disarms them because you just owned everything that they could have been upset for. You went up and said, I screwed up. I made a mistake. What can I do to fix this?
Right.
I guess we're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to figure it out.
Right.
We'll take care of it.
Right.
That's going to be the exact same thing that's going to happen if you just kick the can down the road. But then you're wasting how many other people's times into looking into who did it, looking into asking questions, having to do all this searching about what the hell happened.
Or depending on what kind of mistake it is, waiting for somebody to find it because it's going to get found at some point.
Well, and yes, in his defense, in this case, he didn't know what happened at that time. There were just issues down with some robots that had just electrical issues. We couldn't figure out what the hell happened, and they ended up having to call in a service tech from the robot company to find out what the hell was going on. And they found the hole drilled in the cable. And I mean, they got other people involved, and it was going to happen anyways. There was some debug work that needed to happen to figure out what the problem was. But as soon as he knew that it was his mistake, he should have let
Right.
somebody know. And there nothing ever would have happened. The
Right.
only reason I know how that plays out is because I've made the exact same mistake. I mean, once when I blew up on a coworker, screamed at him, said a bunch of unnecessary stuff that I shouldn't have said, but I handled it the way I felt that was necessary at the time. The next day, there were hours of meetings in the morning discussing how to handle it, what to do, trying to get to the bottom of the situation. They had meetings with the guy that I blew up on, and they talked to him for 4 hours about the issues and just going back and forth about everything. They brought me into the meeting, sat me down, said, "You know why you're here, right?" "Yeah." "You know we can't have that, right?" "Yeah." I was out of line. I was absolutely out of line with it. I said things I shouldn't have said. I blew up. It was uncalled for. It will not happen again. "Okay. Well, we can't have that happen again because you won't be able to work here, but all right, at least we have an understanding." I walked back to my office and my manager came up and said, "Dude, thank you." I said, "I thought we were going to have a long day." He said, "I've spent all morning in meetings about this same bullshit." He said, just arguing back and forth about who was right and who was wrong and why things happened and everything. And you just came in and said, "Yeah, I was wrong. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. You were 100% correct." It's like, that was 20 minutes. 20 minutes we spent having that conversation. You were out of there. Thank you so much for that. I got thanked for scaring a lot of people in my shop. But
I don't think that's why you got thanked, but
no. But I mean, in a way, I still screwed up, and at the end of the day, I
yes,
still was okay
you screwed up and got thanked for screwing up. Yeah,
for how I was accountable. I took ownership of
mistake.
my
You owned your
mistake,
mistake, right?
and yeah, it disarmed them. They had nothing. I learned that because I mean, I've been there for going on 10 years now. So I've had a lot of time to make mistakes and learn how things work and how I've I've made mistakes and then learned how to prevent that from being an issue again.
Okay.
So Josh, our brother, works at the same company I do. And when he started out, I was teaching him how to run a boring mill, a horizontal boring mill at our shop. One of the bigger machines that we have. You have to lift everything up with we have a boom lift on our high-low. So we don't have an overhead crane or anything
Yep.
to move stuff around.
Yep.
Well,
I know all about that.
we were lifting plates and everything. We lifted something up and went to clamp it up on top on the machine, and it fell. Nobody got hurt. Fell on the way covers, dented them up. We picked everything up, put it all back together, did what we needed to do, got back up and running. Didn't think anything of it. Just like, yeah, we dented it. We'll fix it. We'll get it right, and we'll move on from it. It wasn't 45 minutes later, and the owner of the company came walking past and made a comment of, "So I guess nobody's going to tell me what the fuck happened." And then kept walking. So Josh and I just looked at each other and, well, I guess somebody heard something and had to say something. And now we got to go deal with this. Go and talk to the boss and say, "Hey, dropped a part, it hit the ways, and we damaged them, and we got bitched out because we didn't come immediately and tell him. We did not let him know that we dropped it. We could have gotten hurt. And a whole laundry list of reasons why we were out of line for not telling him. And I understand, but we didn't think it was a big deal. Nobody got hurt. We damaged some stuff that could be repaired. What had happened was another coworker saw it happen and heard it happen, came running to see, and then waited to see if we went to the office. And because we didn't, he went right to the office to tell management what had happened so they knew. So that's how word got around, but it came to bite us in the ass. Somebody's going to find out eventually.
Right.
So now, if it's $25, $50 mistake, it's not worth even wasting the time on it. I can just nonchalantly, like, hey, you've screwed up, $50 out the door, but we'll figure it out. But if it's a couple $1,000, I will immediately walk up to somebody and say, hey, guess what? I'm a dumbass and I made this mistake. Here's how this happened. Here's where I know I went wrong. But here's the situation we're in, and now we got to figure this out.
Right.
That's how I learned that the hard way. Now it's not even a problem anymore. Yeah, you're going to get the anxiety of you fucked up and you have to take whatever punishment is coming to you, but punishments seem significantly lighter if you just own that shit.
Yeah, I don't know how I figured it out. I don't know. I can't tie it to any one experience where I just learned it, but it's more an adaptation.
I mean, growing up, we get told that all the time.
Basically selling it. You just one more way to sell yourself, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, you tell your kids that all the time. Just tell me the truth.
Right.
It's scary. And maybe that's where people learned it. Or having...
I almost look at it as a form of manipulation, though, because it throws so many people off because it's not common.
Mm-hmm.
I almost view it as a form of manipulation, and I think that's why I adopted it, because I look at it as a way to manipulate people, but it's really not.
No.
It is, I guess, manipulating the situation in my favor.
It's funny that you say that, because I was just thinking about this, walking through the property, coming back up here before dinner. Telling the truth is the least manipulative form
of manipulation.
Because yes, everybody manipulates. Children are the biggest manipulative beings that I know, because they find out what works and they keep using it, and they'll find a way to tweak people and act different around people. Every interaction you have is you're manipulating it in your favor, or somebody else is doing it. It's just kind of how life is.
Right.
But if you are not 100% true to what you believe, how you feel, or the truth in every situation, you are manipulating people by the reactions that you want from them.
Right.
And ultimately, you're hiding the actual truth. So that's the worst sort of manipulation. Not being honest, not telling the truth, not immediately taking ownership of your actions and your mistakes.
Right.
Is the worst kind of manipulation there is, in my opinion. You are just manipulating everybody's behavior to how you want them to view you, because you are too afraid of your ego can't fucking take it.
Right. Yeah, it's like Instagram filters and everything nowadays. All the shit people hide behind. Not telling your truth.
But yeah, I mean, it could be manipulation by just owning it and being honest, but it's worse manipulation if you don't.
And like I said, I think that's, as shitty as it may be to say, I do think that's why I have adopted it and always have, because I went, wait, I can I can do this.
I see how this affects
this
people.
this is what this is the reaction I get from doing this. Okay, I guess I'm going to use that. And so yeah, if I screw up, I write up. Okay, here's what happened, and like you said, here's what happened. This is why it happened. This is what I'm doing to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I think that's an important point too. Is
Yeah, try to have a countermeasure.
yes,
This is what I'm putting in place, or this is what I'm doing now to prevent this mistake from happening again.
yes,
So my story from this week was I on my way to Texas, I had to go to Texas in order to swap out this countertop that was too short. And it's a Corian, but it has a grain to it. Like there's streaks of different colors through it. And we needed to try to match it up. So I went down to try to do that. Well, most of it turned out okay, but part of it wasn't good enough, so we had to swap out the whole countertop. Get back to the shop, go to recut the top, and well, I'll explain it. I'm sure most people won't know what it is, but we had to V groove it in order to make the grain match it, and that's where you cut a 90-degree angle in the material, and then you can fold it. You glue it and you fold it, and that way it keeps the grain because you're not cutting fully through the surface. It keeps that grain flowing across the bands. So the face of your counter has the same streak in it that the surface of your counter does, if that makes any sense.
mm-hmm.
Um, so we had to do that to it, and it was 190 inches long, so I had to break it into two pieces, and we had to seam it. Well, we were reusing a piece we already had, the piece that I brought back. We reused that for part of it, and then I had to recut the rest of it. So because we're V-grooving it, I had to run it upside down. So the bottom of the material was facing up. Well, when I do that, I need to mirror my part. So I get the mirror image on the bottom. Guess what I forgot to do?
Forgot to mirror it.
Yep. $700 sheet of material. My boss was standing right there. Take it off the machine. I'm all proud. Nope. Got it done. All right, we can get moving. It's going to hit the truck on time. He looks at it, he goes, "This doesn't look right. Something's off." I said, "Oh shit." What? I said, "I didn't mirror it. It's cut upside down." I said, "It's wrong. It's backwards." He looks at it, he goes, "Oh, yep. What am I gonna do?" Right away. He owned it right there. I couldn't really run and hide from that one, but still. Turned right around and yep, I screwed up. What do you want me to do? So yeah, we had to go get another sheet and rerun it again. I mirrored it this time. Got it
But
on the
you were
truck.
able to get the material, and you were able to still get it on the truck.
Yeah, we had to get more material anyways because we still had other stuff that from having to go down and try to fix it, not being able to, we then had to get more material to recut all of it because yeah, good times. It was
Yeah,
an expensive job, but
there was no getting out of that one.
no,
You kind of had to own that one, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you could have lied about it. You could have tried to. You would have lost your job more than likely. At least gotten yelled at. You would have been upset.
yeah. But he would have looked at me like, "Are you kidding me?" Like
Right.
I know what happened. So
Well, exactly. You could have tried to lie to
yeah.
him. Some people, I know some
Oh
people
yeah,
would have.
absolutely.
Like, oh no, that was given to me wrong.
Well, and I didn't push the start button on the machine because I don't operate the CNC. So yeah, I could have probably pushed blame onto him if I wanted to, but why? That was my mistake.
Yeah.
That was absolutely my mistake. Well, and I guess even so, Friday we have doors for a cabinet, and it was a horizontal grain match. So that means the grain's got to match on this laminate door. It's a wood pattern laminate. It's got to match going horizontally across the face of the doors instead of we typically do vertically, so they don't have to grain match. Well, I missed the note on the prints. Didn't program it like that. Kid runs it, and he goes, "Oh, he said these are wrong. I'm gonna have to recut them." I look at it. I said, "Oh, yep, you're right." I said, "That's on me." That he's like, "No, what are you talking about?" He said, "I could have turned the sheet and it would have been right." I said, "No, it doesn't matter because I had them programmed one on top of the other. No matter what you did, those were never going to be grain matched like they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't program it right from the start. I did not set you up for success. That
Right.
is not your fault." So yeah, even that, I could have let him think it was his fault for not turning the sheet. Just fixed it and moved on. But can't do that to him. Doesn't deserve that. Plus,
No.
he needs to know, like, this is something you got to watch for.
Yeah,
You know, and then
absolutely.
I told him, like, hey, nice catch. I didn't see that. You did. Nice catch.
Well, and you want to encourage them to double check that obviously before they make that mistake,
Right.
but by you taking ownership of that, they don't feel as bad about their mistake, but they're more likely to I find that they're more likely to look out for your mistakes and help you out
Yeah.
if you own it, as
Right.
opposed to when you blame it on them.
Fuck you.
It's gonna be you're looking out for yourself.
Right.
And yeah, that's another story, but I I guess I've had similar too, where doing electrical prints before. I've had guys come up to me and say, "Hey, I wired this wrong. I just blew up a sensor. I screwed something up because I wired it wrong." We'll go back and look at it, and I'll look at it and say, "Well, you wired it to the prints." "Yeah, but I should have known better." Like, "No, you
Right.
wired it to the prints.
Right.
I screwed up the
I didn't
prints."
set you up for success.
Exactly.
Yep.
I gave all the tools I gave you were wrong in the first place. How can I be upset with you for wiring it exactly how you read it right there?
Right.
Like any maintenance guy that comes over to rewire something is going to wire it to my prints. So you could have fixed it, but if it didn't get fixed on my prints,
That guy would have done it.
never would have
Mm-hmm.
mattered because it would have happened down the line anyways.
Right.
So that's 100% on me. You're not taking the fault for that.
Yep.
Oh, shit, okay.
Yep.
And then once again, it just disarms them. They're not going to be upset
And
with
then yeah,
you.
they're gonna have your back. They're gonna see that next time and come to you and say, "Hey, this don't look right."
And even then, I find it's more likely that people are going to be understanding of your mistakes if you take ownership of them
Yes.
immediately, as opposed to you if you try to justify your mistakes and justify your screw ups.
Nobody likes to battle an ego.
No, and nobody. Yeah, people will lose faith in you and your abilities if you're not willing to say,
Right.
yes, I screwed up.
Right.
Simple mistakes happen. Things get overlooked.
Yep.
Mistakes
Yeah,
happen.
then you're a liar.
And as long as you own that shit, people will help you
Mm-hmm.
get better. They'll keep a better eye out on it, and everybody benefits then. Everybody has a better end result, end product, because everybody's working together.
Right.
It's interesting how that all plays into you taking ownership helps you be a better teammate for everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you're also leading by example at that point too, because people around you see that shit.
Right. So, I mean, that's my examples for taking ownership of situations.
Here we go
Taking
again.
ownership of your actions, your mistakes.
Yes. Yes.
That's where my mind goes with that.
No,
So
and
as far
I
as
absolutely agree. Yeah, so we said owning your mistake, owning your mistakes is critical because
your integrity is on the line. At the end of the day, that's as simple as it is. Taking ownership of your mistakes is so important. It's so critical because that's your integrity on the line.
yeah, and I would agree with you. I think that's
If you don't own
well
it
said.
and somebody else finds out, you lose all integrity in somebody's eyes. They have no faith in you. You are a liar.
Yeah, that's the whole trust thing. You got to build that trust back up, and
And if you
it's a
lose that,
hard thing to do.
I mean, you can lose your entire team,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, over one big fuck up with getting caught. You get caught with your
Yeah, and
pants down in the
who do
lobby.
you throw under the bus by not owning your mistake? That person's going to be pissed. you, you for sure lost them.
Especially if it's somebody on your team.
Right, and then they have friends, most likely on your team also. They're all going to talk, and they're all going to take the same stance.
Here's a question for you. From your time in leadership roles, how many times have you tried to take ownership of something that happened where you've had people refuse to allow you to take ownership of that? Because
Quite often.
that's something I've noticed too, is if you are willing to say, nope, that's on me, people will try to take that shit back away from you. Like, they want the blame at that point.
Yeah.
They will try to take all the weight off of whoever takes that blame just because they, like, no, we're all together in that.
Yeah.
We all have something to do with it.
Yep.
But it's not all his fault. I screwed up too.
Yep.
I could have done a better job.
And then that lowers defenses even further.
Yeah, because I mean, what are they going to do?
Then
Be mad at everybody?
At that point, you know you got them.
Every single
And
person
what
in your
I
team.
mean by you know you got them is I mean you know you got a team.
Yes, absolutely.
At that, when somebody does that, bingo.
You know you got people that'll die for you.
Yep.
And
that's what I was looking for.
That's what I feel that we are trying to do here, is teach people how to build a team that will die for you.
Yes. We've
That
said
is
that
100% it.
exact words before.
That is the biggest part of it. You have to treat them like you'll die for them, and they will do the fucking same for you.
Absolutely.
It's even in the workplace. They will die for you.
When you see that happen, oh man, that feeling is awesome.
That feels so good when you know you got people on your side, and they know that you'll do the same exact thing for them. That's a good feeling.
Yep.
That's I think the true mark of a good leader, is when you got somebody that their team will die for them.
And if you can own your mistakes, and it's also an opportunity to show people that they can learn from their mistakes.
Right.
Especially if you can follow it up quickly with a countermeasure that you came up with to prevent that mistake from happening again. You're already showing people that, hey, look, I learned from my fuck up.
Yes, but you have to make sure that you actually prove that you learned from it.
Right.
Because if you make that mistake again, you can't go back with the exact same plan of how you're going to mitigate that problem.
Correct.
You either you're not paying attention, you don't care enough, or you're just coming up with bullshit excuses to keep yourself out of trouble. This is the way I see
that's
that.
where the manipulating comes in.
Which
you can add layers of bullshit to anything.
Which is why telling the truth is the least manipulative form of manipulation.
Right. Correct. How should I say this? Summarize how to own your mistake. You get into a situation where you fuck up. Summarize the process.
Very first step in solving any problem is realizing there is a problem or knowing that you
We've
screwed up.
already passed that. You
Yep.
you you know you
So you know you
there's the
messed up.
damage right in front of you. Whatever it is right in front of you. You screwed up.
You have to know how it happened. So I mean, you can wiring, you could blow something up, but you have no clue how it happened. You don't know what's wired wrong. You can't fix any. I mean, you can jump to, hey, I screwed up, this happened, but if you don't dig into it and figure out what caused the problem. So my first step is figuring out what the hell I did wrong to cause it. And then I have,
I do want to interrupt right there real quick.
yep,
How long do you spend troubleshooting before you go, if you can't figure it out, before you go say, hey, just let you know, this just happened. I did this. I'm trying to figure out what happened.
at the most, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
If I cannot figure it
Yeah.
out in that
I was going to
time,
say cap it at probably a half hour, depending on what type of
yeah, I mean,
issue it
yeah,
is.
all depends on,
You know what the cost is going to be.
do we have time to bounce back from this, or do we need to get
Do
on
we
top
have
of this
something in
right
stock to
now?
replace it?
Exactly.
All that. Yeah, use your best judgment, but don't wait. If you don't spend all day digging into your problem, trying to understand what caused it without letting anybody know, because you're right back in the same situation.
And somebody's going to come up and say, hey, what are you doing?
Yes.
And then you're screwed because you should have just come and
Right.
owned it immediately.
Right.
Which I I could go ahead and say I know people that would probably tell me that I'm wrong by spending 10 or 15 minutes on it. Because I know people that the second something happens, they're going to go run and tell. They're going to go and say,
Yeah.
hey, I did something, I screwed up. Personally, I want to know what you did for it, or at least some better understanding
Yeah.
of, oh, something dumb happened.
Because yeah, half-ass answers
Okay,
suck,
I
especially for people who are busy, and now you just threw this fire at them that they aren't sure if they have to put out or not, and you're like, hold on, I'll be back to get you more information when I can, and they don't know when they're going to see you again.
I will accept half-ass answers from children, not adults.
Yeah.
Kids don't understand things.
Right.
You're a fucking adult.
Right.
You know what you did. You know if something's wrong. You know if you should own it. And if you think otherwise, you're in denial. I would spend 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure out the problem. If I can't figure out the problem, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, here's what happened. I did something wrong. I don't know what it is, but I'm working through it right now. And as soon as I find out, I will get back to you and I will let you know.
Yep.
I've done that countless times. I can't even give an example
You
because
screw up that often, huh?
I'd screw up all the fucking time, for sure.
I'm just kidding.
No, absolutely. I do.
You said countless. I was just making a joke.
No, it's true though. I do. And that's okay
Probably
because
daily,
I jump
all
in front of
honesty.
it and say, look, yeah, I fucked up. Here's what's going to happen. Or I'm looking into it. As soon as I know what the problem is, or somebody else screws up. Hey, we're working through this. I will go and I will go with teammates. I will go with people and say, here's what happened. I'm figuring this out with them. Whatever has to happen. But yeah, I own that shit as soon as possible. If I can figure out what it is, at least I have an explanation or some sort of way to mitigate it from happening before or happening again if I can before I go and approach whoever. So know that there's a problem, know that it was a mistake that you made. See if you can figure out, see if you know the cause of the problem. If you have the cause of the problem, that will just help in taking ownership of it. Have a solution if possible. And if you don't have enough time for that, approach it as honest as you can and just say, I don't know what happened, but I'm going to find out, and we'll make sure that we communicate that, and it won't happen again. That would say
Yeah.
that's my process, my thought process to it.
Sounds correct to me
That
as
is
well.
the order in which I would do that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. I think that kind of sums up everything we talked about with owning it, owning your mistakes.
Biggest takeaway is just be honest. Own it immediately. Get in front of it. And even at home, you tell your kids that all the time. Just tell me the truth. I don't care what it is, but if I find out from somebody else, we're going to have an issue.
Right.
Just tell me the truth right away. I mean, how many times does that happen? That happens in relationships too. You're going to make mistakes in your marriage. You're going to make mistakes dating. You're going to make mistakes with your kids. But own it and don't deny it. I make mistakes with my kids all the time, and I do the exact same thing. They're not my managers, they're not my bosses, but I will 100% own it every time with my kids. If they call me out on something, if they ask me about something, a decision I made, or an action something that I did, if there's an issue with it or something doesn't align with what I told them or what they thought and they ask me about it, I will own it every time. If my kids call me out on something, I own it. If I do something wrong and before they even have to think anything's wrong, I will still own that I handled something wrong.
Right.
Just because, I mean, my kids deserve that just as much as anybody at work does. My kids deserve that more than anybody else does, you know?
Yeah, spouses, same thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you love somebody,
That's a hard one too. To have to go to your wife, husband,
this is where my
and
thought
say,
process of
"Oh,
the telling the truth or not being 100% true to people is the biggest form of manipulation. Going back to relationships with your spouse or whatever. And how many people try to lie about cheating and lie about just anything else, hiding
I was gonna say
drug addictions and
how many
stuff like that
trivial issues do significant others hide from each
over
other?"
nothing, and all you just have
Trivial.
they already know the truth. Probably if they're asking the question, they already know what the truth.
Yeah, more
So
than likely.
don't fucking lie, because you're caught with your pants down. You're done for anyways. But yeah, so much in life. Just own it. If you make we all make mistakes. Just own it.
Yep.
In every relationship you have, own it.
I'd say it's probably easier at work than it is at home. As
100%.
odd as that may be.
Because you're not
Well,
playing with somebody's heart.
for me, I'm sure that's not the case for most people, or
I'd
for
say
some people.
because it's more it's an emotional thing. You are affecting somebody that you actually 100% love and have deep
Yeah,
emotions for.
yeah. It's not just
Whereas,
money,
yeah, I
money
mean,
related. At the end of the day, that at work, that's what it is.
yes, but I care about the people on my team like their family. I truly do. I will be there for them. I will talk to them about anything.
Yeah,
And
but
at the end of
I'm saying
right,
the the
motivation,
cost is money, where
that's
at
okay.
home it's love. The currency is different,
Yes.
I guess is the better way to say it. The currency between the two is different, and it's easier for me to justify money than it is a relationship. So that's easier for me to own my mistake at home because I think I'm protecting. Does that make sense? At home, by not owning my mistakes or trying to hide it, I can justify to myself that, oh, I'm protecting this person.
Right. When
I'm not
ultimately
ultimately.
you're
Right.
manipulating the hell out of them.
Yes, exactly.
Just yeah, it's manipulation by
For me,
not
that's why
telling the truth.
it's easier. Because God, have to tuck your tail Go to Tiff and say, did this.
Yep. And I know you're not going to be happy about it, but
Right.
here's where we're at. And I've seen you do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that firsthand. And that can be ugly for a little bit.
I knew it had to be done though.
Oh, absolutely.
That one too. That wasn't even owning your mistake. That was calling myself out.
But it's the same,
Well, yeah,
same exact
same
thing.
thing
Because
ultimatums had been
if
given.
she would have found out any other way,
Yes.
it would have ended a completely different.
Right.
It would have blown up
Right.
in your face.
Yeah.
If you did not own up to what you did, what happened, and just talk about it. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, you're going to upset some people, but
I knew in the long run it was
oh,
for the
absolutely,
better.
absolutely, always is, always is.
People are gonna be so wondering
So
what the
confused,
hell I'm
but
talking about right now. Oh, that's great. I don't even care.
Tiff won't.
No, she'll know. So separate owning your mistakes from taking ownership now.
If you'd like to hear the rest of our talk about taking ownership, be sure to tune in the next few weeks when Ryan and I continue this discussion over the next few episodes. As always, if something from this episode resonated with you, be sure to share it and follow us on social media at Just Two Brothers Podcast. We truly appreciate your support.